Welcome to What's the Tea Tuesdays, where we discuss relevant news and information for Harper College students. I'm Erin Graff, the manager for student involvement.
And I'm Melanie Duhai, the club and organization liaison and the administrative assistant to the Dean of Students. Today, we are dishing the tea with some very special guests. We have some of our student employees from Student Involvement and a representative from the Job Placement Resource Center. We're going to talk about everything from writing a resume to interviewing for that dream job. Thank you all for joining us. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Kathleen Canfield, and I'm the director of the Job Placement Resource Center.
I'm Carrie Lynn Samuelson. I'm currently studying political science with aspirations to work in legislation on Capitol Hill.
I'm Melanie. I'm still an undecided student at Harper. I still don't know what I want to major in, but I'm still trying to figure that out.
I'm Isra Sami. I'm majoring in international business, and I hope to do either global management or some humanitarian work.
I'm Anaya Villasenor. I'm majoring in fire science technology, and I hope to become a career firefighter in my near future.
My name is Jason Hidalgo. I am majoring in nursing, and after Harper, I plan on transferring to Illinois State University to continue my nursing career.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. Like I said, today we are talking about employment. So given the current situation with the stay-at-home orders, Kathleen, what are some skills that students could work on developing while they're at home?
Well, probably the first thing is their resume. It has to be updated with everything you're doing currently at Harper. Make sure it has Harper College on there. Sometimes we find students that are just coming out of high school that they haven't updated it because they did one in high school. So it has to be updated, and certainly work on job search skills, on interviewing skills, and all of these tips can be found on the JPRC website.
Wonderful. Kathleen, a follow-up question to that is, I've seen a lot of resumes that are a standard resume, just text on the page that highlights what a student has accomplished. And then I've seen some resumes that have like pictures and graphics and very elaborate resumes in terms of what you're seeing visually. What would you recommend is best for a student when working on their resume?
Right. So there are sample resumes on our website for every area of study, including undecided, on our website. So it is a business document. So it should be formal text. The only major that can put any graphics on their resume is graphic arts. Everyone else, it has to be pretty standard. You may think it's boring, but that's what employers want to see.
Thank you for sharing. So we know that our Harper students have a wonderful base of skills. And some of these are really unique in terms of their participation in clubs and organizations, as well as athletics or other specific areas of campus involvement. How do these skills translate to a traditional resume?
Well, they do belong on your resume because an employer wants to see what have you done? Have you given anything back to the community? Were you active in school? And so there are sections on the resume, clubs and organizations. You can put the name of the club, if you held an office in that club, the dates that you were in it, any special events that you were a part of. All of that does belong on your resume. Same thing with sports. It shows that you are well-rounded, and that's what the employer wants to see, because how can you stand out from other people who've just gone to class and have gotten their degree, which is all great, but tell me more about yourself, and that can be added onto your resume, so it's a big plus.
Wonderful. In addition to a resume, I know a lot of positions ask for a cover letter. Can you give us some direction as to what a cover letter should entail? What are some parts it has to have? Those sorts of things?
Mm-hmm. So a cover letter is a separate document. Never attach it or make it part of your resume. So separate documents. Your cover letter is going to look similar to your resume, and the header is going to be the same. So your name, your city and state, your phone number, your email address, all of that is pretty common. And so you're going to have that on your cover letter. The cover letter, again, is one of those things that's going to set you apart from all the people who don't write one. So it basically has an inside address, which is who is the cover letter going to. So it means that you're going to have to customize a resume for each, or not a resume, a cover letter for each job. So you're going to have the inside address, who you're sending it to, and about 3 paragraphs. It should be short. First paragraph is the job you are going for. So you're interested in a job in fire science. So that's very simply, and where you found out about it. The second paragraph says, okay, these are the skills that I have, and those are the same skills that are going to be listed on the job listing. So you want to match your skills to the job listing, point it out to the employer in that second paragraph. And I always say, hit them between the eyes. Hey, it's me. I'm the one you should be interviewing. And then the third paragraph, I say something nice about the company. Say, you know, that you like their website, that you've heard good things about them, something that shows that you've taken an interest in their company and they're special, and that you are just honing in on them, because the employer wants to believe that you're truly interested in them and nobody else. And there are samples of that cover letter on our website as well.
Thanks for sharing that, Kathleen. I know when a student applies for a job and they submit a cover letter, I instantly look at their application, because I know that they took that extra effort to show that they were interested. And that tells me, as someone who's hiring, that they're going to go above and beyond to ensure that the job gets done. So I think that's great advice to make sure that cover letter is done and done well. So
yeah, the other thing about, Erin, about the cover letter is that the grammar has to be accurate, and it has to be, your spelling has to be correct. You know, and know at the Job Placement Resource Center, we'll review all this for you. We'll look at your resume. We'll review your cover letter. We'll make suggestions if things aren't quite right. All you have to do is email it to us. We'll look it over.
And Kathleen, what is that email if a student wants to submit it? Where can they submit that to?
Simply jprc@harpercollege.edu.
Fantastic. I want to jump over to the topic of interviewing. I know I'd love to hear from some of our students. You've all gone through the interview process. A lot of you hold not only one job on campus, but you have worked off campus in other positions. So talk to us a little bit about, you know, you've submitted your resume, you have your cover letter, and you get invited for an interview. What tips have all of you done to prepare for that interview that you would share with another student that helped you?
I think for me, every time that the first thing I do whenever I get the interview date and time, things like that, is I immediately start planning my outfit. I know it might seem a little weird, but like it really helps me to kind of get in the right mindset to say, like, this is my favorite button-down shirt. It's business-like. I love it. It's going to make me feel confident the day of. So let me make sure that it's clean and pressed and hanging up, ready to go for the day.
I think like reviewing the resume a night before, or like maybe even a few days before, to practice, like just to practice to say what the skills that I put down in the resume, so that I don't have to look in the resume and then like tell whoever that is interviewing me. That's it.
I usually bring a copy of my resume to my interview. I find it best, as for me, like I find a job that I really like. So then when I do get a call back, I get really happy and excited about it. And I do research prior before. So when I do go into it, I talk about what I have that can relate to the job. So for student involvement in high school, I was part of student council. So I did put that in my resume, something that attaches what you have done to your current position. It not only makes you excited, but you can show the person who's going to employ you that you have what it takes to like go for the job and be a part of the team. So that's something that I've always done. I've always been really excited when I did get a call back or just working, because it's something that has to do with something that I like to do. So I just come in, and with a positive attitude, it's very important, because if you come in with the like, oh, like I'm just like gonna apply, it's not really exciting. So I usually come in and I'm just really excited for the interview.
Me personally, my problem is with interviews, I have a problem just freezing up when I'm get asked questions. So what I do is I think about like I try to think what questions they're gonna ask me, and so that like I can like kind of like have a little practice interview with myself, so I at least know what I'm gonna say, so I don't freeze up.
I kind of do the same thing as Jason, but I do it with a friend, like a mock interview with a friend. And that usually ends up helping me because, like, you know, it helps make you like more confident about what's gonna happen and what type of questions they're gonna ask, and then you can like always restart the mock interview too. So it's not like set, you know, and you can start it as many times as you want.
So Kathleen, I know our students had mentioned some wonderful tips. Is there anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, all the tips were great, especially the practice part. You know, there's some basic questions that will be asked on almost any interview. Usually the start question is, tell me about yourself. And that's not your personal information, but it's you as a employee, as a worker. That's something you can practice ahead of time so you have it in the back of your head. Don't memorize it, but you know, have the ideas going for you. We also have a practice interview called Big Interview, where you can videotape yourself so you can actually see yourself when you're interviewing, because we often have habits that we don't even realize that we have. And more, especially now, you're going to be doing video interviews. They're not going to be in person, not for a while, especially maybe the first interview. So use Big Interview. All you need is your Harper email address to get into it. You can practice as many times as you want. You pick the questions. You're the only one who sees it. So don't think that I'm going to be looking at it, because I'm not. So, but that's a really good way for you to practice, especially if you don't have anyone to practice with you right now. So all of the things you said were really good. So keep up that good work.
And just to reiterate, that Big Interview can be found on the JPRC website, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you. And again, kind of coming from the point of someone who does interviews, I think that for me, you know, the expectation isn't that someone is perfect and that some of the skills are going to be learned along the way, but that really someone shows up with a genuine attitude, that they're excited, just as Anaya mentioned, excited to be there, that they want to be there, and are willing to kind of put their best foot forward. I think that speaks leaps and bounds. You know, once you're in the door, it's making that personal connection with the person who is hiring you. So I know it can be nervous, and that's where, as Isra mentioned, that practicing, and Kathleen, you had reiterated that it's so important to kind of have some of those thoughts ready to share out about your skills, but that really focus on making a connection with the person who's hiring you, because that goes a really long way.
One other thing, Erin, is make sure you smile. You know, you all look so serious, you know, so make sure that you smile when you're interviewing, and look at the person. Don't look down, because I have had interviews where the person never looked at me. So remember to smile and look at the person.
Wonderful. Well, I know that at the end of each interview, I've always been asked, do you have any questions for me? So for our wonderful student workers, what were some questions you wish you would have asked during some of your past interviews? Or what were some questions that you did ask?
A big question that I wish I asked, because this was kind of troublesome for me, how often the schedule changes. I remember one time I thought that, you know, our schedules would remain consistent, but I found out that with every like other week it would change, and it would kind of mess up my own personal life schedule. So that was a bit problematic.
Over the years for me.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hoda.
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
Carrie Lynn, we'll have you go, and then we'll jump to Hoda.
Okay. I know over the years and several jobs for me, one thing that I've learned to start asking is about the training process. Some companies like to do really hands-on training and really in-depth so you know what you're doing before they let you go free, and some like to just kind of throw you out there in the deep end of the water and see if you can swim. So I always ask about that ahead of time so I can prepare myself if I get the job knowing what's coming for me.
One of the questions I asked after my interview was like, is there a dress code? Like, it's really important for me, like, because I always wanted to be organized and everything. And one of the questions I always wonder after all, like, the job interviews I had was, is there a dress code for the place I want to work?
I think those are all great questions. Kathleen, are there any questions that you recommend that students ask during a job interview?
Well, first and foremost, it's a question about something that you really want to know about that wasn't covered in the interview. I always like to have at least 1 or 2 questions written down so that when they ask me that, you know, do you have any questions for me? I never want to say no, because what the employer hears is, no, I'm not interested. So you want to make sure that you have 2 things. It could be, what's a typical day like? What's the next process in the hiring? You know, I want to know how long are you going to take to get back to me? Because that would be important for me to know. So, you know, anything that's important to you, but always have at least 1, if not 2 questions to ask the employer.
Great, thank you. I know one that was always interesting that students asked was about the culture. Can you share about what it's like? Do people get along? Are they seen as like friends, or is it very business-like? And so understanding the culture of the work environment was a really thoughtful question that I thought when students would ask that, that's a very insightful question. So what are some things that students can do to make sure that they stand out to an interviewer?
So be prepared. You know, I think what you were saying about dress appropriately, overdress rather than underdress, right? Even if it's for a student aid job, you want to dress up a little bit. Don't go buy clothes, but wear something that's relatively nice. Don't go in with a t-shirt and shorts, right? Which I have seen. Even though it's a student aid job, you're still a professional. It's still a professional job. So you want to look good because you got that first impression. Whether you like it or not, people make a first impression, and that first impression is how they view you or how you see you. Again, be excited about the position and have that smile. Those are like key things that everybody needs. I don't care what type of position you are applying for. You know, other than that, as people pointed out, know your resume, create some stories in your mind. I always call it, you know, create your life story. So it's not enough to answer yes and no, but give an example of why. Like sometimes people will say, well, I'm organized. And then, well, can you give me an example of how you're organized? And they can't, because they just said organized because they thought that's what the employer wanted to hear. But make sure you have an example for every skill that you're talking about, because they want to get to know you, because people hire people they like. And so anything you can do to have that, you know, interact with that employer, get them to connect with you. And it's in telling life stories, stories about things in the classroom, stories about things obviously that were positive in other jobs, and how you created things and how you accomplished things. Those are the kind of things that are going to make you stand out from a candidate who goes in, doesn't smile, and looks down.
Wonderful. For our student workers, do you have any suggestions for how you feel you stood out in an interview, or any last suggestions for our viewers?
I would say that, oh, go ahead, Anaya.
Well, before this whole pandemic, something I would really do was, once I did see the employer, I would stand up really straight, make sure I wasn't slouching, and I would give a firm handshake, because I was always taught, like even with family, that when you're meeting someone and you're applying for an interview, even a firm handshake could show them that you're like, you're ready for the interview, you're ready to go. Now it's gonna be a little bit different. I'm not sure how we're gonna like change to that just with the whole pandemic going on, but that was something that really stuck out that I did well with. I also work at Starbucks for my second job, that stuck out to my manager. So she also said that like not many people go in and would introduce themselves or give them a handshake or a smile. So I think that would really stick out if you're not slouching when you meet someone, but your posture is really straight.
And I totally agree with you. I was definitely taught that as well beforehand. But one thing for me for interviews that I've always found to be really helpful is that the interview is kind of your time to really like sell yourself. So go in having in your head the things about you that make you the good worker that you want to talk about. Whenever you get the chance to talk about yourself, mention whether you are really proud of the fact that you're organized and have those examples like Kathleen was saying, but also just anytime that you get the opportunity to talk, you really want to highlight things about you. So that way, whenever they ask like, oh, what are some of your weaknesses and what are some of your strengths? You've already mentioned a few strengths. They have those in their mind. And whenever you're talking about weaknesses, try and almost put a positive spin on them as much as possible. If you can think about that ahead of time and go in kind of with that equipped.
Excellent. I think those are all great suggestions, things I've been taught too. So it definitely carries over.
For our students, that now that we have Kathleen with us, do you guys have any personal questions or questions that you think maybe other students would have that we haven't already covered? Silence.
I did have just one question going back to the whole cover letter. I know I was very afraid when I first saw cover letter because I wasn't sure what that was. But for like going to the cover letter, how long should it be? And I know you said there was a format, but is there any specific way, like how would you address it to, or how long should it be in page length? I'm not sure about that.
Well, definitely only one page. And it's 3 short paragraphs. So the first paragraph can be 1 or 2 sentences. That second paragraph, which talks about your skills, would probably be 3 or 4 sentences. And then the third paragraph can just be 1 sentence, I really like your company and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. So it's short. Anything that is too long, I'm not going to read, because I actually had a cover letter that was 6 pages. I did not even read it because it was I don't want your autobiography. I just want an introduction.
Great question. Any other questions? So we wrap up.
I have a question. Where is the best place to start? How would you start a job search?
How I found for like student aid jobs, I actually went on the Harper website, and I actually went in my student portal, and I was just browsing one day. I had more time on my hands, so I was like, oh, I want to apply, and I saw the student involvement and it just said apply. So that was where I first went to, was the Harper website, and it's really easy. It says job resources, and it gives you what you could put in if you're looking for part-time, full-time, and all your interests. So that's where I first went to. If you're looking for like outside jobs, I go to Indeed, or I look on the website where I want to apply. So that's where I would start.
There's one really other important place that you can look. Anybody know that?
I think I know it. Hire My Hawk?
Hire a Hawk, yeah.
Hire Hawk, yeah.
So Hire a Hawk is the Harper College for jobs outside in the community. So you're able to register on that site, and that's where the employers are going to go for when they want to hire Harper students. And it's not as big as Indeed. Indeed is fine, but you're not competing with everybody on Indeed. With Harper, with Hire a Hawk, you're just competing with other Harper students. And we already know that the employers want Harper students, so it's a great place to go and look for jobs outside of Harper itself.
What great advice. I think that that's really good information for our students to know, that if they're looking for employment off campus, that we have that specific portal for employers who are looking to hire Harper students. So wonderful. As we wrap up, Kathleen, is there any other information besides, again, redirecting our students, take a look at the JPRC website? There's lots of opportunities to engage on that and enhance their skills and ensure that they're job ready. Any last thing that you would say a student should prepare for?
Well, I think it's important, especially at this time, that you're going to have to be patient, but employers are still hiring. It's maybe not in your area right now, but if you need a job, I say look outside the box. Your skills will transfer to another kind of job, especially if you need a salary coming in. So it may not be your dream job, but there is a job available. And if you get stuck, please contact us, because our whole purpose is to help Harper students. So we're waiting for you to contact us, so please do.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Kathleen, and all of our wonderful students for joining us for What's the Tea. We appreciate your time and your insight. And again, for those of you who are watching, go to the JPRC website or email jprc.com if you're in need of some assistance with your resume, cover letter, job interviewing skills, or just have a general question that we didn't cover. I know Kathleen and her fabulous team are there wanting to assist and ready to assist you.
Right. So it's jprc@harpercollege.edu.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Well, that is all the time that we have. We hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye now.